MLS movement, Zach Steffen, we've been talking about it. Moving on to Colorado Rapids for Manchester City. Mihailovic goes to Colorado as well. Hugo Lloris now joining LAFC. Forsberg joining the Red Bull there in New York. Luis Suarez will be in Miami with his BFF Messi among some of the notable movements. There's another one on the horizon. A lot of things happening between MLS, even some stuff with Liga MX. Who better to talk about it than the crack reporter, CBS correspondent de Fútbol, Felipe Cárdenas. And we're going to bring you on board. Felipe, bienvenido. Thanks for joining us. So let's talk about that breaking news. Wagner moving.
Kai Wagner, yeah, he's re-signed with the Philadelphia Union. And I think, let's just be honest here, this is the best left back in Major League Soccer and a big part of the recent success of the Philadelphia Union under Jim Curtin. And he was a free agent. And so this is a big deal because they have re-signed a free agent. And obviously, if you know MLS free agent rules, he's getting the most money that he could have been offered by deciding to stay with the Union. So surely financially, this was a good deal for him. And I think that the European interest in Kai Wagner perhaps wasn't as strong enough for him to decide to take that risk and move on to Europe and actually make less money and be under more pressure. So this is the kind of move where I think Kai Wagner sees it as this is his home. He's going to be well paid. He's well respected in Philadelphia, obviously well respected in the league. And honestly, for the Union, probably their biggest signing in recent history.
And Felipe, on Kai Wagner, I'm really surprised that there wasn't that kind of European interest for him, as you mentioned, it kind of being tepid, because this is a player who in one season had 15 assists, has been thought of as the best left back in the league for a Philadelphia club that has sold players abroad. Why don't you think there was that interest in Wagner abroad?
Yeah, it's tough to really like find out what the true answer is. I think to your point, Chris, he's a modern fullback. You know, you mentioned the assists here. He's not a stay-at-home fullback. He is playing up the field. He's very technical. He's aggressive, and he has that pedigree, that European pedigree, that would make him a nice fit in Europe. He's not going to suffer any sort of culture shock. So we don't know. I think perhaps there was interest. AK Athens, where Matias Almeida was one of those clubs that was in for Kai Wagner. So it wasn't the high-profile top 5 league type of interest, but that shouldn't diminish the talent that he has. This is a big-time player in MLS, and I think the narrative, especially in American soccer, if you don't make it to Europe, are you truly testing yourself? And I think that is accurate for some players, but not every player. I think Kai Wagner here made a decision for himself to stay in the league, stay at home, stay with the Union, and clearly they've probably told him too, we want to build around you. Not as the key centerpiece, but he is going to be a big time part of this Philadelphia Union project that is going to continue to be contending for MLS Cups.
And Felipe, that legend that you have there over your shoulder, Diego Armando Maradona, maybe looking down from the heavens, saying Miami, I think with great interest, right? Looking at Miami this morning, the crew at Morning Footy, they were having debates if Miami is better than they were last year. What are your thoughts?
Well, they should be. The expectations are going to be higher than I think most MLS clubs in the history of the league have faced. I'm not even being I'm not embellishing that opinion there. I think the pressure, not really the pressure, just the expectation to win multiple trophies. They're going to be up for 5 trophies if MLS clubs return to the U.S. Open Cup. But a lot of people are calling this a super team. What Inter Miami has assembled with Messi, Suarez, Busquets, Alba, Gressel now coming in, and obviously with Suarez, you're going to be expecting to get some goals from him. But are they going to be better? Yes. If you follow the career track of Tata Martino, if you remove the Barcelona year where they were just a point away from winning that league title in 2014, every team that he has coached, with the exception of Mexico, which just couldn't get over that pandemic hump and they couldn't regain their 2019 form, every other team from Newell's to Atlanta United, the Paraguayan national team, every team that Tata Martino has coached improved in year 2. And Atlanta United, the MLS reference here, 70 goals in back-to-back years, and obviously adjusting tactically to win that MLS Cup in 2018. So Inter Miami, if you look at the core of the team, yes, they still have holes to fill, but they should be better. They should be understanding each other, understanding what Tata Martino expects tactically. And yes, I mean, this is an MLS Cup contender. They should be the number 1 pick to win the league title in 2024. So yeah, if they're not better, something's gone wrong.
Now, from a transfer standpoint, we saw them sign a couple of homegrowns today, including the U.S. under-17 captain Tyler Hall and Israel Boatwright as well. They've been linked with Christian Medina of Boca Juniors for a big money signing as well. Where do you think they still have business left to do? Because obviously depth is going to be enormous with the number of competitions that they're playing in, as well as this massive global preseason tour that they're doing ahead of the year.
Yeah, they still have work to do. You know, mentioned the back line as well. Kamal Miller leaving, and there is a hole there. Now, not because Kamal Miller is an irreplaceable center back. I honestly believe he's not the ideal type of center back for a Tata Martino system, but that's still, I think, a piece that they're going to try to fill. You mentioned Christian Medina. My understanding is that the parties may have walked away at this point. Inter Miami offering $7 million for the Boca Juniors winger, and this is what I mentioned yesterday. This is the type of player that they're still looking for, a winger, a versatile winger that can play inside, outside. And so Christian Medina was that guy, but Boca Juniors returned with a $12 million price tag for Medina. And my understanding is that deal may not be getting done right now. So they're still going to be looking for another attacking piece. But again, you mentioned all the tournaments. There are a lot of players on this team already, the existing players that are going to step up. You know, Chris Henderson, the general manager, was saying earlier, late last year, that Farias, Facundo Farias, Kermaski, Aviles, you mentioned the academy players. Like, these guys are going to get minutes. They're going to be dependent on to carry a lot of the load when the older players like Messi, Alba, Busquets need a break, and then when the big-time international tournaments roll around. So work to do with Miami, but there's going to be a lot of pressure on everyone on that roster.
And I think, as you mentioned, Cremita there in the middle next to Messi is going to benefit plenty for the future of U.S. soccer as well. Let's talk about some of the players from the future. When we talk about Brandon Vazquez, I don't like for MLS to lose young, talented players, but if they're going to go somewhere, I'd like to see them obviously jump the Atlantic, go to Europe, but if not Europe, Liga MX, I think, is a good fit for Brandon Vazquez first at Monterrey, and what he brings. He's going to be essentially replacing their all-time leading scorer, Rogelio Funes Mori, the evil twin, But on the other side, too, Cade Cowell. I like what Cade Cowell brings to Chivas. I know a lot of people are criticizing that move. What are your thoughts on all of this?
Let's start with Cade Cowell, because, I mentioned it yesterday as well. There's just so much hype around that player, a very young player that I think is still developing and still trying to find out what his best position is. And so with the talk of a high money move to Europe, I just didn't think it was going to materialize. I don't think that's a player, Cade Cowell, that's ready for that level. And so Liga MX is fine. It is a very difficult league, especially for American players. It's very rare to see American players going over there. Just a handful of players over the last decade have made a living in Mexico. And when they get there, they are under intense scrutiny because they are American players. And so that's going to be, I think, a big learning curve for Cade Cowell that will help him as a professional. Obviously, he's going to Chivas. It's not a mid-table team. You're going to potentially the top team in North America, one of the biggest fan bases in Mexico. And so there's going to be pressure on him to deliver right away. And I think they'll see him as well as a project. Hopefully that's what the message from the front office in Guadalajara was to Cade Cowell. We want you to get better. We want you to develop here at Chivas and become a star in Mexico. Brandon Vazquez, same thing. You mentioned it. Like, it's not, if you think he's gone to Mexico to take it easy, you're just very wrong. You mentioned it. He's replacing Monterrey's historic all-time goal-scoring leader, and he's an American again. And so that puts so much pressure on Brandon Vazquez to be good right away. And it's an $8 million transfer fee, so it's not peanuts. And so Brandon Vazquez, just like Cade Cowell, I think is going to learn a lot from as who he is as a player, as a striker, as a professional in Mexico. Both players, I think, will be fine culturally. Brandon Vazquez especially speaks fluent Spanish with a Mexican background. And so it's going to be really interesting to see how he develops, and if he does well, what that means for his future with the national team.
You're right, though. Playing that backdrop, maybe the best on earth, Cerro de la Silla. It's a World Cup stadium. He's going to get used to those friendly confines there in Monterrey. And he's also going to understand there's a lot of pressure coming from Rayados fan base as well as Chivas. So we wish them both the best. Felipe, as always, great work, crack. Thank you.
Anytime, guys. Take care.